So before we start, just a bit of housekeeping. If you are watching this video, can you make sure you're not operating machinery, because you could find yourself getting a bit too relaxed, and I just want to keep you all safe. Also, it's quite a nice thing to watch if you just want to relax before you go to bed, because watching other people getting a relaxing treatment can be very calming. Also, this is filmed on a very rudimentary technical setup, so please excuse my hand position. I'm just trying to make it as watchable as possible, but you may have noticed that certain hand positions or certain positions of my arms are not really the most conducive to doing a lot of treatments during the day, but that's just because I was trying to give you the best view as possible. Also, you'll note that my nails are shorter because they have to remain below the end of the fingertips so that you're not hurting people, basically. So this is about the integumentary system. So all things skin and eczema and acne. This particular young lady had a history of eczema, which then later transferred into acne. So the point of this video really is to show you some of the kind of background to why there's been recent research on the psychological, emotional effects of things like eczema and skin irritations, and how reflexology has been used. Even the National Eczema Society are now talking about how reflexology can be very beneficial for relieving the irritation or the stress factor, because if you are suffering from eczema, for instance, there's that real urge to want to scratch all the time. So the Reflex Society, the National Eczema Society, have recommended that relaxation and deep breathing can be very valuable, inducing a sense of peace and well-being, along with things like stretching and yoga, and this can help with relaxation. So I've done, as you can see, I've been doing lots of relaxing techniques. What you'll notice, and I will indicate by hand movements which do look rather strange, like I'm directing an aeroplane at an airport, but I am trying to indicate that this lady also has hypermobility, so I have to be very careful with not doing too many techniques like the ankle boogie or anything that's too manipulative, because she has compromised joints. So what else you'll notice is that her ankles, her feet do rest outwards, and this really does reflect the hypermobility in her hips. So the feet are, instead of being more straight, they are relaxing outwards, and that shows that kind of like weakness in the joints in the hip flexors, which you can get help with, like Pilates, for instance. But obviously, as a reflexologist, we don't diagnose or prescribe, we just offer ideas and things like Pilates is something this young lady does do. And they've got some really good ways of helping with hypermobility, and they're very calming actually. I've watched them being done. They're really nice, simple stretching techniques, very gentle. So here I'm just connecting with the pituitary, and you'll see at the start I was holding the heels. It's really nice to have someone hold your heels and then raise them. Usually experiment with doing that at home, have someone do that for you, and then you'll feel the benefit of it. It's very uplifting. And so here I'm just using gentle relaxation techniques to help the client really get into that rest and digest relaxation state. So when we're thinking about skin irritation and flare-ups, we can think about the body as being inflamed. There are areas of inflammation, and when we come to look at that in reflexology, we obviously work with the direct reflex that's affected. So that may be scalp, it may be back of the legs, arms, wherever it's common, neck. So we would work with those direct reflexes, but of course we want to give a full treatment, and we want our clients to really feel a massive benefit from this relaxation, so bringing back down all stress. As I've said, the National Eczema Society have recommended relaxation techniques to bring down help alleviate the stress of this condition. And more recently now, the combination of something like hypnosis and reflexology. I will link some PubMed articles underneath. Hypnosis has also been shown to be super helpful in reducing the urge to scratch in these conditions. But we're also thinking about acne as well. So the major reflexes, let's go through those. Obviously, you've seen at the start, we're going to look at the reflexes that really help our client relax, because we want to give them that initial feeling of, wow, I've just landed. And you'll see some super responses in this from my client. The biofeedback we get is amazing. So, and very much like the hypnotherapy response can have very similar effects. So we can get the twitching, we can get ideomotor responses, we can get sighs, we can get, that sense that the body's just completely let go and relax for the first time in a long time. So you'll see this client, the biofeedback is amazing. We get lots of twitches and stuff. And that's also really important because it tells you that you are having a nice effect for them. This is not a spa treatment. This really isn't a one size fits all. This is absolutely tailored to your client. So whereas this client is hypermobile, I have other clients who like industrial strength reflexology, and that's the style I like as well. So I'd rather have someone put their elbows in my reflexes. But so you've got to tailor this completely to your client. I'm also not using any oil or cream because I need to, when we're dealing with skin, I need to be able to feel the texture of that skin, and I do lots of feeling the temperature and assessing the colour of areas and assessing, where there's chalkiness, where there are lines and things like that. So that's going to tell me the areas of dehydration or the areas that are not being as nourished as they should be. And that includes mental areas as well, that includes mental health. So we're talking about a mind-body therapy here. And as much as possible, again, like in hypnotherapy, I really, some clients, we got some nice feedback there. Some clients do just want to come in and shut out the world and pass out. There's the great reflexologist Sam Belyea said, some clients like to be shut up in a dark room. I love that expression. But, in cases like this where we've got real flare-ups, skin flare-ups, and similar to hypnotherapy, I don't do the kind of hypnotherapy where you just come in and have something done to you and then walk out. It's really a collaboration. So I'm collaborating here with my client, getting feedback all the time, finding out what they particularly like, what gives them the most relief. There are really interesting tingling sensations as reflexes are explored. So it's a lovely process, but all the time that collaboration is allowing the client to become much more grounded and much more aware of how their mind and body are working and areas that need improvement. Again, I will stress we do not diagnose. You never ever diagnose, but you can just, if a client wants more information on how to stretch or how to improve their musculoskeletal balance, then you can point them to other really good professionals that would be, I've got a crew of like nutritionists and Pilates instructors who come to me anyway. So I would point them in that direction if they want to. So here I'm just working on the headspace. While I do so, I do notice that this young lady does clench her jaw a lot, so she's got a bit of TMJ there. So TMJ always does suggest that higher levels of stress, I'm prone to a bit of TMJ when I get too overworked. That's not something that, it's more about me not giving myself a break rather than being overworked. So I love what I do. So it's more about learning to stop and just watch something rubbish, or switch off completely. So we're working through the head and neck spaces here. And of course, whenever there's stress, there's tension in the neck and head space. Tony Porter often points out, and I will be doing that technique, that the liver 1 and 2 technique is also really helpful if you've got, migraines or intense headaches. I can highly recommend Tony Porter's book for some fascinating insights. So I will go over liver 1 and 2. And I'm trying to really connect with all the areas in the body that may be affected by too much stress. This young lady has been through a lot of exams. And, it has actually been shown when I was teaching mindfulness in schools that exam stress causes cortisol levels to rise so high that you can actually find it in hair follicles. So that's how, stressful those exams can be. Some people can do it with like a machine, but, other people get the pressure on at the moment as a teen is insane, I think, in terms of exams, school stress. So it's not surprising that we get things like TMJ or indications of stress in the body. Another obviously big area with teens and stress is digestion, and digestion is very much linked to skin issues. So now in this particular case we're dealing with someone who had eczema, and then that went away as the stress went down, and then the stress came back, and it came back as acne. So we really do have to look at all the major reflexes when we're working with something like this. So at the moment, really interesting, her shoulder reflex caused quite a lot of biofeedback, but again, which I'm just working with there. Again, that shows you, when you are stressed, how much you hunch your shoulders. You clench your jaw, you hunch your shoulders, you pull your shoulders up, so that affects your neck. So there's a whole story behind every client, and it's fascinating. So what I'm pointing out there is that actually, there is also the fact that she's hypermobile. So if her hips are, they very easily displace, or one foot will easily twist, and I'm just showing there how much the foot goes out to the side. That has had an impact on her shoulder, because obviously you're dealing with the kinetic chain. So if your hip on the right side is misaligning, that will of course translate into your shoulders having some challenges as well. So this is why we work in these areas, and then we talk about something being a holistic approach. It's that we may be working on the shoulders, and we're thinking at the same time, what would go really great with this would be to go and have a Pilates lesson, or to go and look up a good yoga instructor who does gentle stretching, that's particularly able to specialise in hypermobility, or a physio. And then also you might think about the nutrition that goes with that things that help strengthen the bones and nourish the body. And again, nutrition would be also things that would help with reducing stress, so less processed food, especially with acne. Of course, you've got the dairy element that's often cited, and anything processed, high sugar. Not only does it affect your digestion, but it affects your emotional well-being as well. Of course, we all love our treats, but if they are becoming your mainstay, then it will affect your hormone levels. In fact, there's recent research to show that too much processed food can increase a hormone that exacerbates conditions like panic attacks. It's fascinating. Okay, so I am working on the lateral spine here, and then I'm going into hormonal work, just checking that the endocrine system is balanced, because obviously hormones play a massive part in flare-ups with acne. So we're just making sure we do all the direct reflexes and all the major reflexes, and keep bringing in relaxation as much as possible. All these simple, nurturing, loving relaxation techniques, making sure the client is at the right temperature, always checking on how they are, not just plonking them on your couch and then thinking about the feet and nothing else, always listening into their breathing, and as much as possible, as we do in hypnotherapy, pacing your breathing to theirs. And now I'm working on the spine. Obviously, this is really interesting, because when we start working on the spine, you can start to feel the areas of tension, and sometimes I will stop particular points on the spine. Also in the art book, Tony Porter's fantastic reflexology book, there is the spinal chart, which shows you what parts of the spine relate to, you know, what the nerves that innervate from the spine, where they innervate out to, and how they affect other areas of the body, other organs. On my Facebook page, I do have that spinal chart somewhere. But it's really interesting. You see, we got lots of feedback there. So that particular area of the lower back, we're getting lots of feedback. So that's the body really appreciating the treatment. And again, it does give you insight into the kind of exercises that would really help. You know, exercises that are gentle and good for lower back as well. Again, getting in as many relaxing treatments as possible as I go into the liver. So, the reflexes we really do need to look at, obviously, are the solar plexus to relax the body. And then we go into the major digestive organs. So we've got the liver and the gallbladder. And as everyone knows, the adrenal points must be super investigated in this. So I'm just doing the general ascending colon and going across the digestion now. And it's really important to get into the IC valve, because if there's been any major stress in the body, then the IC valve can be functioning less optimally, and that means that you will not be eliminating as well as you should be. You know, if we're stressed, that fight, flight or freeze has an immediate effect on our digestion, and so, you know, we may get cramping, we may get constipation, we may get it going the other way. So it's really important to make sure that you check the IC valve. And I cannot stress enough how much my clients love heel work. In foot reading, of course, we talk about the heel as being a sense of resources and moving forward. So again, it can be really nourishing to get that work on your heels to kind of release any tension there. And that obviously translates all the way up zone 5, which is, you know, the shoulder, etc. So, while I was looking at the digestion, so we're just flushing out now, doing some really gentle lymph work, just moving out any toxins we can. But what's really interesting, and I do indicate it, is that where I'm working now, which you can't really see on this video, is there are a lot of very fine lines. So I was working in the middle of the spine there, and there are a lot of very fine lines coming from the spine into the digestion. So those fine lines, great reflexologist and visual reflexologist Angela Telford does some really brilliant work in her ebook all about lines and how to read them in the feet, horizontal and vertical lines. And again, you know, she points out, like I'm completely in agreement, is that the lines that come from the spine, they show how stress has impacted everything, and that stress does then go into your stomach, and it can really affect your digestion. That's why I see so many teens with IBS, and that's why combination of this work with incredible successful stories with hypnotherapy and IBS, which I love doing. The combination of these treatments can give the client freedom and, apart from anything else, insight into how stress has impacted their system. And if you combine gentle reflex like this, depending on the client's condition, gentle reflex like this and some hypnotherapeutic work to alleviate the IBS and to give the client complete control back over their digestion. There are lots of things you can do to combine reflexology and hypnotherapy to allow your client to live a regular life again. Because obviously when the digestion is affected with IBS, it limits where you can go, it limits your journeys, it limits the things that you're confident to do. And so if we have something like we do here with lines coming from the spine into the digestion, we can look at, having a conversation about, okay, so what kind of techniques are you doing to relax in the evening? And then obviously as a hypnotherapist, I can suggest some simple therapeutic practices. We can look at some simple therapeutic reflexology practices, as well as in a lot of cases I will supply an audio to listen to. The National Eczema Society highly recommend autogenics, and that's a form of relaxation that you can record, and it can have very helpful effects. It's all guided. You literally have to just lie back and listen and then follow along with the simple relaxation techniques. So then we move over onto the other foot. So we will be working the same thing again. So we'll be doing the chest and the lungs. I will be assessing the texture of the skin. There is chalkiness there, and the chalkiness and the lines also suggest dehydration. And I do know this lady's not particularly good at drinking water. So I keep wanging on about that. Right there I felt the tension in the spine. And I'm very, very gentle with my touch here. So I'm just assessing the colour, the texture, how the feet feel, how they move. And of course, when we come to move the ankle around, you get an immediate understanding of how tense your client is, because sometimes people cannot, their ankles barely moved at all, and you're doing it very gently. You don't yank someone's ankle, you're really moving with them. And I'm just pointing out there how much her foot goes to the side, the difference. And then I'm seeing where the heels are in comparison to each other. So they should be more upright, but they're falling way to the side. But again, it does look like I may have another job in airport traffic. So obviously on the left hand side we'll be working on the pancreas. So we'll look at how, of course, if there's processed food, if there's lots of sugary food, how the pancreas will feel. And I'm just checking flexibility. So some clients, when you're doing this, they can their toes barely move, their ankles barely move. And that, that is a good indication of the amount of tension in that person's body. And we've all been there, we've all been in those stressful situations. You think, God, I'm so het up, I'm so tense. Everything's completely tight. You're clenching your jaw, you might be clenching your fist and not even realising you're doing it. And it's something like a reflexology treatment that makes you go, wow, I didn't actually know I could relax that much. So again, we've got areas of TMJ, we've got neck tension. And there are some clients that are super, super stressed, in which case I would suggest we do a more limbic reflexology session. And what I do encourage clients to do is come for auricular reflexology and traditional reflexology. So that's ear reflexology as well. And what works really well in auricular reflexology with eczema is the psychosomatic point. All the points on the ears that really relax the person. We've got Shenmen point 0 and the psychosomatic point, antihistamine points. So the combination of doing an auricular treatment and a traditional treatment can be amazing. So you could do a combination if we've got someone going through a lot of stress, is a short package of reflex and hypnotherapy. So dealing with the intrusive thoughts, the self-sabotage, however that stress is showing up, we can work with that in hypnotherapy. And we can add reflex in. So within this treatment, I have spent a lot of time relaxing the spine. Of course, there's finger-free work, the knuckle work, the side of your fingers that David Wayte's done excellent work on. So we return to the adrenals a few times. We do some effleurage in between to really relax the body. Again, my posture's probably awful, but this is for the video. The National Eczema Society also, they showed, research in 2015 showed a link between eczema and lower levels of vitamin D. And a 2018 systematic review found that children under 18 with low vitamin D levels had more severe eczema, with a 67% improvement after taking the supplement. So, this is something you could discuss with your doctor. So we're working with the hypothalamus pituitary axis at various points in this. The hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, I should say. We're working on the digestion to make sure we increase the elimination of any toxins that are left in the body. We work on the diaphragm to help relax the client completely. The pelvis can remain super stressed, so we do lots of work on the pelvis as well. And really importantly in the integumentary system is kidneys. So we want to make sure that minerals are being absorbed and toxins and waste are coming out. So obviously I'm working on the headspace now, but I just want to make that point. So again, I'm checking flexibility. With other clients, you'll see that the toes are much more stiff. And because of this client's hypermobility, her joints are actually much looser than many clients. But again, it's stuff, you can work on by asking a professional with a deep knowledge in that area to coach you. We're working right through the sinuses, right through the neck spaces, going into the eyes and ears and the eustachian tube. So if there are any sinus issues, obviously they have an effect on the digestion. So, if you're bunged up, that mucus is going to go down into your tummy, which affects then how you digest food or don't digest food. And again, if you're not absorbing all the minerals you should be, then your skin will be impacted. And the story I want to tell now is of a client who is, and I did put a post up on Facebook about it, a client, super healthy client, really looks after themselves, very good on movement, incredibly good on nutrition, even very good on environmental toxins, like making sure there's not, particularly challenging products in the environment. So on paper, they have a super healthy lifestyle, but recently they have experienced quite a lot of stress in the family. It's come out of nowhere, bit of a shock to the system, and so her business, her relationship, her living arrangements have all been impacted. And what's happened with that is that has had a direct effect on her stress levels, and immediately her skin has flared up, her scalp has become irritated, her neck has become irritated, all those areas, patchy areas of eczema have come up. And it's flared up on her face as well. And it's deeply upsetting for her, and we have to have a conversation about bringing in much more techniques that are going to help with actual mental stress and emotional stress, because everything else she is doing 100%. She'd be a perfect student, really. So we have to bring in techniques now that will really help with bringing down those stress levels. So obviously reflexes, really important, and we will be doing a session with auricular reflex shortly, and the techniques I'm showing you here. But we also included in the first session some visualization, so some very gentle, lightweight hypnosis. That's something that she can use when she goes to bed to help bring a sense of calm and peace into her life. So 2 things I want to point out, and she's found them very beneficial. It's a lovely part of her week, getting that time shut away from all the stress just to be. And my therapy room is very, very quiet. It's really good to work on the intercostals there. We often forget about the intercostals, and another thing that Angela Telford always mentions is that not enough work is done on the dorsal of the foot, and I agree totally, because it can be so nice to have dorsal work. You can get right into the chest, in the intercostals, breast area, which gets a lot of tension. Even like I do resistance training, and you can really feel it a couple of days later in your chest. So it's really nice to get that massage to that area. So I'm working here up the spine and into the chest. So what I will point out is that at times I will close my eyes, and that's not because I'm having a quick nap. It's because I'm trying to really read what's going on with the reflexes. Because sometimes you just want to get more insight, so you close your eyes. And when you close your eyes, you get more of the texture. You can feel more of the texture. It's really interesting. I'm just working across the pancreas here. And the whole area of the spine was, same as the other foot, there were a lot of lines around the area of the pancreas. So we're looking at the thoracic spine. And that means that and I'm just pointing that out now, the nerves from that part of the spine innervating into the pancreas, into the stomach. I am yawning now because it's so relaxing. So because I've found those areas of lines, I'm now spending more time on that part of the spine. Just making sure I use enough techniques and making sure I follow that all the way down the spine, down the kinetic chain. Going right into the lower spine. And then making sure we balance the endocrine system on the other side. Again, I will go across the pancreas, and I will make sure that I work on the adrenals and make sure when I've worked on the adrenals that I've flushed that through to the kidneys as well. And I always make sure I do that like 3 times. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to leave my voice over here. Of course, once we've finished on the left side, and I've really made sure I've been through the entire body, I will finish with some bilateral work, so working on both feet at the same time. Now this is an hour's treatment. Of course, what you could do, and it's what I often do with clients like the most, is I start with half an hour of auricular ear work and then go into traditional work. And I will often give clients homework, either a facial work they can do, which can really help. I love doing myself at night. And work on the hands, the reflexes on the hands. Such a great reflexology treatment you can do for yourself. And I swear by stretching as well. Such a good emotional release. So again, we're using some soft side of the knuckle there on the spine. Just to really ensure our client has got a lovely, wholesome, nourishing treatment. And like I said, we will incorporate hypnotherapeutic elements to reduce stress. And if there is a lot of challenges, then I would suggest, I really am yawning now. It's coming to the end of the session. It's so nice. You know what it is? It's because you're pacing your breathing to the client. It's the mirror neurons, it's like if someone yawns, you yawn, so kind of goes with the territory. Yeah, so if a client is going through some really challenging stuff, I'm also a mental welfare coach qualified, so I do work with people for particular issues using hypnotherapy. I'm going back into the adrenals. I'm going to make sure that they are balanced. Check the texture and how they feel compared to at the start of the treatment. In hypnotherapy, we do a scale, see, how stressed are you? A scale of 1 to 10 at the start, and then double check at the end of the treatment. That's something you can do. And this is a similar thing, we're just checking the reflexes, and the reflexes give us that feedback. You may notice a change in temperature in the feet. The colour will have changed completely if you've, increased blood flow, you've opened up the reflexes, when you get that biofeedback, that's messages going up to the brain saying, oh, okay, let's work on this. So you want to check that feedback, temperature, texture, colour, movement, client's breathing. And always do something nice at the end to really hold that client in that moment. Literally uplifting. Then you can do the solar plexus breathing that you did at the start, making sure that you pace to their breathing, just as you would in hypnotherapy when you're building that connection with your client. Such a nice thing to do. I hope you enjoyed this, and it might help if you're not a student of reflexology and you just want something to watch, and like me, get the mirror neurons and feel like you could just snooze now. Watch it before you go to bed. And if you ever want some online hypnotherapy, or you want to know some self-help techniques, drop me a line. In the meantime, may you have a lovely rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. Nice bit of feedback at the end there. So before we start, just a bit of housekeeping. If you are watching this video, can you make sure you're not operating machinery, because you could find yourself getting a bit too relaxed, and I just want to keep you all safe. Also, it's quite a nice thing to watch if you just want to relax before you go to bed.